live. We are live. We are live. I do that every time. I'm going to have to stop doing that. It's fucking whack.
What's that?
We're live. We're
Announcing it.
live every
And here
time.
we are. We
And
are
we're live.
live.
Yeah, I don't know why I do that, but I say it every time like an
I like
idiot.
it. I like it.
Oh, I can hear an echo right now. What's that all?
That was me. It was playing on my phone.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like,
It's the
whoa, dude,
delay.
that was real loud echo there. All right. For a few people that are jumping in right now, appreciate you guys. I am at my parents' house back in my hometown, hence the little backdrop right here. Thanks, Mom, for the wrinkled king-size sheet. Appreciate that. But it's better than the alternative. I was telling Chris, my parents' basement is just it's like a basement. It's got stuff everywhere. So I think this will be all right. We're going to cut it a little bit shorter than normal just because I'm at my parents' house. My mom's birthday is tomorrow. That's the reason for our trip. So, just going to do I don't know, maybe half as long as we normally do. We've been going steadily like over an hour for these. So I think it's all right if we cut it down a little bit on a Friday night here and get out of here in about 30 minutes or so. But I'm not gonna cut it off if we're having good stuff going. Just not planning on staying on quite as long. Don't have quite as many topics as we normally do. But that'll be all right. So first things first, Michigan got a commitment today from Jordan Whittley, this jumbo defensive tackle from Oregon State, graduate transfer. He's north of 350, 360 pounds. I think this is a very positive development for Michigan. I don't think. And I saw some people kind of trashing it on social media a little bit, saying like, "Oh, who cares? He's probably not even going to play. Well, we'll see if he can even get in shape and make his way on the field." Like, I don't really know where that comes from. First of all, he had a heart condition and some potential COVID complications that kept him out of football last year. But he's been a big dude. He played at north of 340 pounds or something like that in 2019 and made some plays. He's a former running back. He's an athletic guy. And Michigan wanted a player like this. They targeted the guy from UAB, and now they targeted Jordan Whittley, and they got him. And so, it's really kind of strange that people, thought that this was some who cares type of moment. Look, I don't think Jordan Whitley's going to come in and be an All-American, but they clearly wanted a guy to play the middle of a 3-4, and now they've got one. So I think that's a good thing. Call it like it is.
I have no idea how anybody could perceive this as a negative. I think that's just more of what we've talked about before, where there's a certain group of people that are always looking for something to be upset about. But this is a big get. They need somebody. You talk about the guys that they have on the defensive line right now, Mozzie Smith, Chris Hinton, and those are big dudes, but they are, just slightly north of 300. This is a big guy that can play really well at the nose tackle position in a 3-4 defense. Regardless of whether or not he comes to Ann Arbor and becomes like a, first or second round pick. I don't know what the expectation is, but the bottom line is it's a big get, and this is somebody that can help them accomplish what they're trying to accomplish on the field. So it's a good thing all the way around.
Yeah, it's just maybe he isn't an every down guy. That's okay. That's totally okay. I mean, they needed a guy to play the true nose tackle, to play a zero technique in a 3-4, and now they have one. I mean, I think you could have probably got by with Mozzie Smith or Chris Hinton, but they're, like you said, they're 300, 305, maybe 310.
Yeah.
That extra 50 pounds on a dude that big in the middle of a defensive line makes a difference. So I again, it's a guy they targeted. Really, the second, maybe the third one. The guy that ended up committing to Florida from Penn State, his name escapes me, but that was much earlier in the cycle.
Yeah.
And now, a couple weeks ago, I said his name wrong last time too. Is it Tony Fair or Jordan Fair?
Tony
Fair. I called him Jordan Fair because of Jordan Whitley's name.
Yeah.
But Tony Fair ended up committing elsewhere, and now, he eliminated Michigan from his top group, and now Michigan went out and identified this guy and landed him. And I think a big part of it was Courtney Morgan. We talked about that before. He was at San Jose State when Jordan Whitley was originally coming out of high school. He spent a couple of years at a junior college, then a couple of years at Oregon State, and now he's going to finish up at Michigan. So again, I just think it's a guy that maybe not even, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Jordan Whitley, but not even him specifically. They needed a guy like this. They needed a jumbo defensive tackle to play the middle of a 3-4, and they got one. So
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think anybody is trying to portray this as, oh, Michigan's going to win the Big Ten now. This is the missing link. This is all they needed. I don't. That's not it at all. But they needed this guy to make their defense a little bit more complete under Mike Macdonald, and now they have one. So I think it's a good thing. It's something that they were trying to do, and it's something that they were able to do. So I don't think you can say anything bad about it. I will say, the heart thing. You put up a little story about this.
Yeah.
Not that he shouldn't like get another shot, or apparently, obviously, he's been medically cleared, but just recap real quick what that was about. And like, it sounds serious. Like when you hear what it was, it's like, damn, is this guy really ready to, step back onto a football field?
Yeah, when I dove into it and looked at kind of how that took place, he put up a post on one of his social media accounts and had said something to the effect of, there was a tumor, and possibly he'd even mentioned that there was potentially cancer there. So it was a pretty serious deal for a little while. And yeah, obviously there's been some resolution to it. And another guy that comes to mind was like a Mo Hurst, right? Who was, I think I don't know, was he slated to go first round? I mean,
he was much in the discussion. Yeah.
yeah, and then they discover, now I don't know how similar it is to what Whitley has going on, but the bottom line is, there was a serious issue that was there. They discovered it. It seems like there's been a resolution to it, and I think that's probably playing a little bit of a part of why people are skeptical. You have the weight, you have the heart issue, and then I think people can just look at those two things and say, oh, geez, I hope he can stay on the field. But generally speaking, when he was on the field, he was pretty productive, and I wouldn't expect any different here when he arrives in Michigan.
Yeah, this is not like a guy whose whole career is just riddled with injuries. He
Right.
he had a pretty serious and what I would probably call a rare condition last year that caused
Yeah.
him to miss. And I think the concerns with COVID, when there was a lot of discussion on whether or not long-term effects on the heart could stem from COVID issues. Like if you've already got a heart issue, like you just don't mess with that. So
Yeah.
I think he wouldn't be trotting it out there again if he wasn't fully cleared and ready to play. And so I just don't think it's going to be that big of an issue for him at Michigan. But it's something. I mean, when you hear like tumor and heart and that kind of thing in the same
Yeah.
breath, it's like, damn, that sounds pretty serious. I hope first of all that he's okay, just for
Right.
him personally, and then obviously, yeah, healthy enough to play football and contribute, because obviously it's been made pretty clear that Michigan wanted a guy like that. So hopefully he can help them out as much as he can. So
Well,
I think
and
it's a good thing.
That's what I was going to say, is that for anybody that might be concerned about it, this is a position of need at Michigan, and they chose to fill it with this guy here. So, I mean, there's obviously a certain level of confidence, at least from their side, that whatever this issue was is good to go. Otherwise, you wouldn't, it seems like it would be a bit too risky to fill that position with a guy who may or may not even see the field.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think it's a good thing all the way around. We'll learn more about him as he gets on campus and fall camp starts. And again, based on what I learned about Baltimore's defense and what I think Mike Macdonald knows, like this guy's going to play. I saw quite a few people on Twitter, on social media saying like, cool, go get this guy. He's never going to see the field. And I'm like, I don't think you're right. I think you're wrong. I think he is going to play. I think that's why they wanted him. I think he fills a specific need that you didn't have on the roster before this point. Like defensive tackles in a 4-3 versus a 3-4 are very different guys. In a 4-3, you want guys like Mozzie Smith and Chris Hinton, athletic, little quick twitch guys, 285, 290, 305, maybe in that range, because you work them on stunts. You have them twisting with the defensive end. You need them to be a little more fleet of foot. You need them to get in the gaps. You need them to, press the edge a little bit. You may even need them to step out and play defensive end at times on a jumbo set, short yardage, whatever. That's not what you do with Jordan Whitley. You put him in the middle and you say, bro, take up two guys, get a tackle at the line of scrimmage every once in a while, and let our linebackers run around clean back there. So I just think his role is going to be pretty specific for his body type, and that's what they're going to have him do. That's why they wanted him. So we will see how that develops, but I think a good thing, that they were able to find a guy, because they had been looking for a little bit now, and now they've got one in Jordan Whitley. Next up, very briefly on this, because we've talked about Steve Clinkscale quite a bit. Both you and I think this was a massive hire for Jim Harbaugh. Both of us put it at number one in terms of the acquisition of assistants and staffers and things like that. Some details about his contract came out today: 3 years, 600,000 base salary with a chance to go up to, I think it was 750, and a promotion to co-defensive coordinator if he gets his pass defense in the top 25 of the national landscape. So, and basically just incentive laden for him to make a really healthy contract. $750,000 for a cornerbacks coach is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
With the chance to get a promotion basically and have a little bit bigger hand in running the defense. So I think that's about what I thought. Mo Linguist was set to make 680. I thought it would be about that or more. So I'm a touch surprised that it's less, but nevertheless, he's going to have a chance to up his profile and earn some more money if he does a good job, which I fully expect him to. Now, the thing about having a highly rated pass defense is it's not all on the cornerbacks or the cornerbacks coach. So you know, he's going to hope that, hey, Nua, let's get them defensive linemen to get some pressure on my guys. McDonald, let's be a little bit more aggressive getting after that quarterback so I don't have to worry about him winging it down the field. So it's a collective effort, but I think a contract that fits who Clinkscale is and what he's about.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, it shows, the fact that they see, some potential in him to become a co-DC, that they've got, the mindset that he's going to be around for a while. And, from a coaching standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, like we said before, this was a home run hire. And so I really wasn't surprised to see anything that came out today in terms of the detail of his contract.
I said this before, and I think you agreed with me. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with Jim Harbaugh. There's quite a few people out there who think this could be the last go-around, that if he doesn't, shock the world in essence, that he's done. I don't know if there's a number of wins or if there's a certain kind of win. I mean, we talked about Ohio State, till we're blue in the face. We talked about bowl wins. We talked about all of that. But Steve Clinkscale is a guy I would imagine that no matter who comes in, if Jim Harbaugh is removed, that he would be a retention candidate for sure.
Absolutely.
Like he's going to get that kind of look from any head coach in the country. And if it is a one and done for him at Michigan because of Jim Harbaugh's, future, then he's not going to have any problem finding work. So it's a smart contract. It pays him a good amount with the chance to make a lot more and get a promotion. So I like the deal. I like the deal a lot, and I think he's deserving of it. And I'm excited to see what he can do on the recruiting trail and how the corners look, because there were some times last year where it wasn't very good.
Yeah, to say the least.
To say the least. Last but not least, this is going to take us a little bit of time to get through it, but I have spreads. I have point spreads for Michigan in 6 of its more marquee games on the schedule this year. So I'm going to throw you out the game, the matchup, and what the spread is, and you tell me, Mr. Breiler, where you would slap your money down, because it's legal in Michigan, and if we want to put some money out there on these things, we can do that.
We can.
I did one already. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit after we start talking about this, but 6 of the bigger games. So Washington, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State. Those are the odds that have been released already. There may be more out there. I go through FanDuel, so anybody out there who may have seen these on William Hill or DraftKings or another platform, that whatever, it is what it is. But this was what I found on FanDuel, and they were released yesterday or the day before. So we'll start off with that week 2 game that we have talked about at length, being a fork in the road game, a barometer for what the whole season is going to look like. Washington is favored by 2.5 points in Ann Arbor, in front of a packed house, we think, right? We're pretty certain now that it's going to be full capacity, which is amazing.
Game changer.
It is. It does change things a little bit for me, but Washington's still favored by 2.5. Where are you putting your money on that one?
I'm certainly putting my money on Michigan there for sure. I mean, I get that Washington would be favored, just based on the guys that they're returning and some of the questions there are at Michigan still. But I mean, you're going to Ann Arbor. It's prime time. The big house is going to be full at this point. I don't see any scenario that now, especially with the crowd being back in the stadium, that Washington comes out of this one with a win. I just don't see it.
I'm sticking with what I've said. It doesn't. I do think the crowd. That's big. That's big. That's going to have a completely different feel. It's a night game. It's going to be rocking. I mean, it's not the opener, it's not the season opener, but it kind of is. Like, I mean, no
I was
disrespect to
gonna
Western
say, yeah,
Michigan, but Michigan should win that game easily. I get that'll probably be a noon kickoff. MAC opponent, get the season off to the right start, but that week 2 tilt against the Huskies is going to be huge. It's going to be
yeah,
absolutely huge. I mean, Michigan's probably not going to be ranked. Washington likely will be inside the top 20, somewhere in there, if I had to guess. Um, I still show me first. That's
yeah.
where I'm at. Show me first because I got duped last year several times. I was watching Michigan State watching Michigan State lose to Rutgers as Michigan was pounding Minnesota, thinking like, God, this is going to be so ugly next week. And boy, was everybody wrong. And then the losses that they did have throughout the rest of the year, I need to be shown. I need to be shown first that Michigan can handle a good team, and Washington is certainly a good team. So I would put my money on Washington to cover the 2.5 point spread because I think it will be close. A 3 point win, a 4 point win, maybe a touchdown, but it's going to be a good game, I think, for sure. And
Yeah.
that crowd factor is going to make it all that much better.
I was gonna say, man, given the fact that it was a year layoff, like the stadium should be rocking. Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's not opening weekend, but I expect it to be similar to what it was when Notre Dame came to Ann Arbor for the first night game back in 2011. That stadium was just probably as electric as it's ever been. My hope, and that's one of the things I'm really excited about, is to see not just everybody return to the stadiums, but to see if there's a bit of a difference in the energy, that maybe there's more of an appreciation for, being back in an environment like that, with the understanding now of how quickly that can be taken away.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I got your face up there. I'm looking for I'm looking for
What up?
a quick website real quick. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Look, the crowd is certainly, you know, just thinking about the alternative, that where we were even a couple weeks ago when we talked about like, oh, if they had a game tomorrow, it'll be 20,000. The percentages say so, and maybe by September it'll be 50%. Now that it's potentially looking like a full house, it's huge, man, and it's going to be
Yeah.
so cool to see again. I'm really excited about it. It sounds then, by all accounts, that means that you and I will be on site for the games, which is awesome. I know you're really looking forward to that as someone
Can't
who's never
wait.
done it before. And just, for me and for everybody in the media who didn't get a chance to do it last year, and we had to do all this stuff from home and all these call-ins and all these Zooms for all these different pressers. I still am curious about how that will be handled. I would assume they're going to err on the side of caution for a while and not have a bunch of people smushed into a room at the same time if they can help it. So we'll see how that goes. But at the same time, when you got 110,000 in your stadium and that's okay, putting 50 in a room to talk to Harbaugh at a podium probably is all right too. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm anxious to see how all that works out and looks. But yeah, having a capacity crowd is certainly a game changer for potentially the outcome of that one. Man, I don't know if it's hearing about the fact that there's going to be fans, but my excitement went from like here to here, just like just learning that and just thinking about what that's going to look like at night and how big of a game that's going to end up being in week 2. I just, we said it, we said it was going to happen, right? We said it was going to happen. The closer it gets, the more exciting it's going to get, and the more
Yeah.
amped up people are going to be about it. Even if optimism is a little low, even if Michigan fans are a little bit concerned about it this year, it's still the excitement's it's going to continue to grow. And that learning about the stadium, learning about the crowd, and thinking about that week 2 game against Washington, who's favored by 2.5 points, I'm getting more excited as we're 105 days away from Michigan's first game against Western. All right, second game on the docket that had a spread released is October the 2nd at Wisconsin. The Badgers are favored by 9.5. That's a pretty big spread. But good Lord, they won by 40 last year in Ann Arbor. So where would you put your money on that one?
I'll put it on Wisconsin. My money goes with Wisconsin. Listen, Michigan, when it comes to playing Wisconsin, Michigan has a problem when they go to Camp Randall. I haven't seen, I can't remember the last time I watched them, go to Wisconsin and put up a really good fight. I think the last two times that they've been there, right, have been pretty ugly. I'd have to go back and look at the schedule. But I don't have fond memories of Camp Randall. And based on what I saw last year in Michigan Stadium, now granted, I know it was an empty stadium, but still, there was no excuse for what we saw happen last year. I'm kind of where you're at in the sense of you got to show me. You have to prove it on the football field. And until they can go on the road and play a team like this in a hostile environment, I can't put my money on Michigan in this one.
I hear you. I hear you. Real quick, I just want to put this up because I thought it was a good question. I didn't see it. So Jimmy Whitner from Twitter, when we were talking about Clink Scale schedule, do I think that Michigan will have a top 25 pass defense this year? No, I don't. I don't know if they're going to sniff that, to be honest. Based on, again, show me what we saw last year, the lack of pressure from the defensive line. You've got new linebackers learning a new scheme, and you've got, with calling it as much like I is, you've got moderately, mediocre talented cornerbacks. There just isn't like a guy on this team that I'm like, oh, NFL corner. They don't have that. They don't have that. So I think unless there's a dramatic improvement and things just look completely different from last year, certainly getting Aiden Hutchinson back and healthy helps. Having him rush the passer in a more pronounced role helps. But if I had to say right now, I would say no. I don't think Michigan will have a top 25 pass defense, and I don't really know how you could argue that very aggressively based on what we saw last year. So anyway, that's a good question. I wanted to throw that up there since it was pertinent to I almost said linguist, the Clink Scale contract discussion. All right, next one up. By the way, I'm with you. I would take Wisconsin on that 9.5 point spread at Camp Randall. It's just Wisconsin just does it, man. Year in and year out, they just do what they do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to take care of the ball. They're not going to turn it over, and they're going to pound you. And they're
well coached.
It's very well coached. Very well coached. I mean, you're right. They've punked Michigan the last 2 years in a row. Again, show me something different, and maybe I'll think differently. But that's what it's been. Next up, October 23rd. So is that after a bye? No, yes, that is after a bye. So at Wisconsin, then at Nebraska, then back home off a bye week, October 23rd against Northwestern in Ann Arbor. The Wolverines are favored by 9.5. What would you do with your money on that one? So 10 or more point win over the Wildcats.
It's weird because I feel differently depending on what happens in week 2, and especially going to Camp Randall. I mean, if Michigan's coming off the bye week with 2 losses already, I think this game takes on a totally different vibe. But based on the way that I think the season's going to go, I'll take Michigan to cover. Just because, again, they're at home, the crowd is back. Northwestern can definitely be a pesky team, and they're, again, one of those well-coached teams. Pat Fitzgerald always has those guys up and ready to go. I just think, bottom line, Michigan's too talented in this one. They're at home. They got the full stadium. I think that they're going to cover.
If I'm not mistaken, Northwestern has one of the lowest return rates in the entire country in terms of the production that they're bringing back on both sides of the ball. So they played well last year. This year, they're expected to take a large step back. So with that said, though, I just think I could easily see this being like a 3 or a 6 or a 9 point win or a 1 touchdown win for Michigan. So I think Michigan will win. I feel pretty confident in saying that, actually, but I think I would put my money on the points with Northwestern. Okay. I think Michigan would win, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit if it was 3 points or 6 points or a touchdown. It would have to be 10 or more. And I just, again, based on what we saw out of Michigan last year, how so many games against Northwestern have gone in the past, I just think it'll be closer than that. But I like what I just said and what you said. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan did open it up a little bit because they are more talented and they should be. And it's in Ann Arbor and it's off of a week of rest. Like there's a lot of things working in Michigan's favor. I'm just going to go with, again, until I see a little bit different, I'll go with Michigan getting a win, but not covering that 9.5 point spread. That's a pretty big spread between two like middling conference opponents. Like, you don't see spreads that big often.
This is the point of the year, though, where Michigan should be clicking. If things are working, by now
they'll be working by then,
right?
Yeah.
By now they've either really crap the bed or they're really performing well and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And either way, whatever it is they're trying to accomplish during the season, by the time they get to this game, it should be clicking. It should be working based on all the athletes they have, some of the guys they have coming back. They should be able to run away with it. But you're right. It's a lot of points.
It's a pesky little team too.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got some weather. I mean, you just don't know. But I think you look at 9.5, and that's a pretty big number. I'll take Northwestern in the points, but I do think Michigan wins. The following week, October 30th, almost Halloween, Halloween again, up there in East Lansing. Michigan is favored by 6 over the Spartans. Michigan is favored by 6. Where do you put your money in this one?
This is going to be an ass whooping. I'll call it right now. I feel like Michigan's going to come into this one more focused probably than you've seen them in a long time, just based on the way things went. They got absolutely embarrassed last year. There was no excuse for it to happen. It may very well have been the most embarrassing loss of Jim Harbaugh's career. I've got a feeling that, whatever the issues were in 2020, though they've moved on, they're going to carry a lot of that into this game. And there's a lot of interesting storylines coming into this game, too, with Rayshawn Benny and Andrel Anthony and some of the things that have happened during the offseason, some of the little bit of chatter that's been going on. I think this one's going to be chippy. I'm excited for it. But bottom line is, I think Michigan, I'll take Michigan easily with the points. I think they're going to beat them by like 20 or 30 points. I think it's going to be bad. Bad.
Wow. Man, you are slurping the Kool-Aid right down, bro.
guzzling and for this game.
I just don't. God, do you remember last year?
I do. Unfortunately, I do. But that plays into why I feel this way.
I got you. And being in East Lansing this year, Mel Tucker is not. I mean, he's 1-0 against Jim Harbaugh. He's never going to fear that game ever. And certainly won't this year after Michigan's coming off of 2-4, and the question marks that are surrounding that program. Yeah, you're talking over halfway through the season at this point, so there won't be any secrets by then. It feels weird answering these now because there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of secrets. But like by October 30th, there won't be. Like everything will be out on the table at that point. I just find myself coming back to how Michigan looked last year, what I just said about Mel Tucker and his confidence level and what he's going to tell his team. Michigan State picked up some decent transfers this offseason. They have a quarterback transfer from Temple who's going to factor into the starting role. They picked up a running back from Wake Forest who's got a nice skill set. They got Quavaris Crouch, the big talented tight linebacker from Tennessee who Michigan wanted badly. Ben Van Sumeren is now on the roster there. Like you might not think he's very good, but like he was playing a lot for Michigan last year. He started the year on the field a lot against Minnesota. He's probably going to be on the field against his former team. I think Michigan wins, but I would take Michigan State in the points. I feel a lot like this one, like I do about Northwestern. I think Michigan wins, but maybe it's by a point, maybe it's by a field goal, maybe it gets to 5 points. But I think Michigan State +6 is a man. Vegas is good at what they do, aren't they? That's like right where I would think to myself right now as we sit, like there's no way they can win by more than 6. And of course that's right where the line is. So it's really, really hard to put your money down. And first of all, I wouldn't touch that. As somebody who does gamble a good bit here and there, I wouldn't touch that one because I don't feel good enough about it in either direction. But as we're just spitballing and talking about it right now, I would take the Spartans and the points. I think Michigan will win, but I think it's going to be closer than, a touchdown or more, which was what it would take for Michigan to cover.
Ass whooping.
There you go. Well, I can't wait for it. I mean, I'm with you, though. I'm excited to watch it. I do think it's going to be chippy. There's a lot of cool storylines. It's already a rivalry as it is. And, man, like Mel Tucker, he's got the bragging rights. And, Michigan. Can
you imagine 0-2?
Yeah, you cannot fall to 0-2 against Mel Tucker in a rebuild. You can't do it. You can't do it. November 13th, so 2 weeks later, at Happy Valley. You can pretty much pencil it in as a whiteout game at this point.
Yes.
November 13th at Penn State. The Nittany Lions are favored by 7. Where do you put your points? Where do you put your money on Penn State being the 7-point favorite?
Penn State. And I think when we were going through our schedule here, this is a game that I picked them to lose specifically because, you look at the schedule, you look at Penn State's schedule and who they've got coming to Happy Valley. This screams whiteout game. I think that's what it's going to be, and I think Michigan enters this game with one loss at this point, and so I think it's going to be a big deal. I just think we've seen it, that crowd and that environment, if they're allowed to be at capacity, it's a game changer. It changes the whole, complexity of a game. It makes things a hell of a lot difficult, a hell of a lot more difficult on the visiting team. I don't think they're extremely talented with who they've got coming back, but they've got some solid guys. I know they got Sean Clifford, who's pretty experienced at the quarterback position. Whether or not he's still starting at that point, remains to be seen. But bottom line is, that's a really tough place to go play. It's just like going to play at Kinnick at night. Whenever you go to places like that, it's hard to come out with a W. This is one that I definitely think Michigan trips up on.
I'm with you. I mean, obviously Penn State got off to a horrible start last year, but they righted the ship and won a couple games down the stretch, including against Michigan when they were sitting at 0-5. Obviously that was in Ann Arbor, and you're right. There's enough working for them, and there's enough that Penn State can lean on in terms of a returning quarterback and some key pieces here and there and talent. They're one of the only teams in the conference who recruits on a level comparable to Michigan. Obviously, Ohio State's kind of in another; they're on their own tier, but Michigan and Penn State kind of make up that next tier. They're tier 2 recruiting teams, and so when all things on a talent level are close to equal, you almost have to go with the home team. And when you've got that whiteout, which I think it will be, and you've got a returner at quarterback again, maybe he's not the guy at that point, but again, as we sit here on May 21st, that's what we see. 7 points again. That's like right around the edge where I would say, like, I think Penn State can win by like 7. Yeah. But you throw in the home field and what might be going on with Michigan season at that point, and I think I'm with you. I would put my money on Penn State. This would be another one I wouldn't touch for a little while. I expect that spread to look different once it gets here, but right now it's at 7. And last but not least, the finale in Ann Arbor against Ohio State, November 27th, noon kickoff. Ohio State is favored by 11.5, and I think that is easy money. And I may have already made a bet on that one. Just going to put that out there. I mean, like, dude.
Why wouldn't you?
11? I got it at 11. It's at 11.5 today. I think every week that game gets closer, it's going to be bigger than that. I mean, I know Ohio State has to replace a superstar quarterback, and they've got a lot of other guys that they're going to have to replace, but I don't know, man. Nothing I have seen in a couple of years, multiple years, makes me think that will be less than a 2-score game.
Yeah, it's weird. Every time Ohio State's in a situation where they've got to find a way to replace a superstar quarterback,
they just do it.
They seemingly do it with another superstar. We've seen that going back to the days of J.T. Barrett and Braxton Miller and Cardale Jones, and I mean they keep throwing
Haskins.
Haskins. Yeah. He wasn't even on my list of names to just throw off, right?
Yeah.
So they've got some question marks, at least from the outside looking in. I think from the inside, these guys have very few questions. I think that they are going to be, once again, the class of the Big Ten. And, man, what we've seen, obviously we didn't see it in 2020, fortunately, because it would have been ugly in 2020, just given the way these two teams looked. Very, very different pathways in 2020. But, the last two meetings have been, 20 or 30 points or whatever it's been. I have no faith that Michigan can even keep this one close, and you can call me a hater, you can call me, whatever it is you want to say. Bottom line is, Michigan has not shown anything against this team in quite some time, and until they do, I would easily take Ohio State at this point.
And look, man, like I would love for that game to get here and for things to just feel so different and be like, Michigan's got a shot. Michigan might win this game. Michigan's the favorite all of a sudden, or however it plays. I would love for that to happen. No confidence that's going to happen. But you know what you say to the people who call you a hater and say, you just don't know what you're talking about. You hate Michigan. You need to find a new team to like. You need to tell them to go ahead and put their money up then. Go ahead and put your money on Michigan then to cover that 11.5 point spread, because I don't know how anybody could feel confident doing that.
Well,
Anybody
what
like
year
the
was it? Michigan wasn't it? Was it 2018 or 2019 that Michigan went in as a favorite? It was 18, right? Because it
18,
was
yeah,
on the road. So Michigan was the favorite on the road, which was when I heard that I was like, how the hell can that happen? They haven't
mm,
won in Columbus in what almost 20 years, and you saw what the result was. So even when Michigan looks like a team who is pretty good and is actually the favorite going into that game, man, it got out of control pretty quick. So yeah, no confidence, none, and
and
there's no reason to have any at this point.
yeah, yep. So Ohio State, the 11.5 point favorite over Michigan for the regular season finale. And like I said, I mean, we got another question from Jimmy Whitner. Will what will the spreads be when the actual games get here? I mean, yeah, they're going to change a lot. I mean, a lot.
Yeah,
Um, I would expect that Ohio State game to be maybe. It's so early, dude. I mean, who the hell knows? But like, based on how things looked over the last 2 years for both programs, like it would be double that,
yeah.
and you'd still get some people to pick Ohio State probably. So yeah, I'm with you, man. It's like, all right, they're going to have to replace a quarterback this year. This might finally be Michigan's shot. And then, you know what happens? Good coaches put talented players in a position to succeed, and they look awesome. That's what happens. They do it every year. They find another guy, they put him in there, they coach him up, they put him in a position to succeed, and he looks like one of the best players in the country. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing how the good programs do that year in and year out. That's another discussion I would like to have at some point. I was thinking about the draft when we were talking about the Michigan players drafted and how I put up the story about how Michigan's has over the last 3 or 4 years. I think they've only had three schools have more players drafted than them: Alabama, LSU,
Yeah.
and Ohio State.
Yeah.
One of these things is not like the other, right? Like, how is that even possible? And it's true that not all draft picks are equal. Like, if you're putting a first round quarterback in the draft every other year, like that's huge. I mean, that's huge to have a quarterback that can do those kinds of things. Skill players in the first round, pass rushers in the first round. If one team has 5 first round picks and another team has 5 sixth round picks, like that's not equal. Like
Yeah.
on that graphic, it would look the same. Both teams had 5 players drafted, but that's not equal. So there are layers to it. There's a lot more to it than that. But I find myself asking, all right, like Joe Burrow coming out of high school, right? He was a mediocre recruit, was an Ohio kid, went to Ohio State, wasn't a big time recruit, wasn't really the most talented guy, not a plus athlete with his legs, not the strongest arm in the world, so he transfers to LSU. He gets put into a position to succeed, has one of the best offensive seasons in college football history. He's the number one pick, and he looks like he knows what he's doing in the pros too. So I find myself asking all the time, like, it's a chicken or the egg thing. Like, was that always there for Joe Burrow, and it just was a matter of time before it came out, or was it like perfect storm? LSU, great receivers, Joe Brady calling plays for that one year, and poof, he looks amazing. Like,
It's crazy how that happens. Like, really couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. Then all of a sudden, you're right. I think it is. Wasn't it the best season any
yeah, I
quarterback has ever
mean,
put together in terms of
ran away with the
how
Heisman,
productive?
obviously.
Yeah. So you've got that, and then Justin Fields, obviously, who was struggling at Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and comes to Ohio State and ends up becoming what he became. So I don't know, man. It's weird. It's I wish I knew what it was. The only thing that I can say for sure is that whatever it is, Michigan hasn't hit on it one way
Mm-hmm.
or another. Like, you see all these pieces getting shuffled around, and guys land at other programs and they blossom and become, what I guess people always expected they could become. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought Shea Patterson was going to be that guy. If you looked at how highly rated he was coming out of high school, and even some of his film, if you watched him play a little bit at Ole Miss,
Pretty
he
good,
he
pretty damn
kind of
good.
he gave off like a bit of a Johnny Manziel type vibe where he could run around. He was a bit undersized but could scramble. Was a playmaker. And it just never really fully materialized at the University of Michigan. Still put together a really good 2 season stretch, but man, Michigan, for whatever reason, just can't hit on the quarterback position. And I don't know, how long has it been since they've had a quarterback taken in the first 3 rounds? It's been a long time. The last guy was is
Chad Henne.
Did he go? He was
I don't
third
even know
round.
when he was drafted. I don't, yeah, I'd have to look back on that. But yeah, I mean, there you go.
Two
If you can't even
decades.
think of one, yeah, if you can't even
Right.
think of one, then
Yeah.
it kind of tells you something. Yeah, so it's just a really really interesting thought. It's how you have busts in recruiting. It's how you have busts in the NFL draft. It's how you unearth gems it's all about timing. It's all about getting guys in the right spot. It's incredible. It's incredible to really think about and look at. I mean, you just ask yourself, what does Joe Burrow's life look like, career in college look like, and ability look like if he had come to Michigan? Just throw Michigan out there instead of going to LSU. He comes to Michigan. He's literally probably not even drafted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
I mean,
hard.
you know,
It's hard for me to imagine like a quarterback putting together a season like that in Ann Arbor. In like, can you imagine watching Joe Burrow do what he did at LSU in Ann Arbor? Like just watching a
yeah.
Michigan quarterback sling the football like that. It seems so unrealistic to me that it's hard to even imagine what that would do, for the fan base of this football program. And yeah, it's a position that we certainly have missed on quite a bit. And unfortunately, I don't think we have the guy, in 2021 either.
Mhm.
I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but it needs to happen.
So we said all of that stemming from what's Ohio State going to look like. They have to replace Justin Fields. I would bet on them finding a guy who's going to look pretty damn good. That's what I would bet
Yeah.
on. They've got C.J. Stroud, who's probably maybe the leader in the clubhouse at this point. He's been in the system a little bit longer. He's got the dual threat capabilities more so than Jack Miller and more so than Kyle McCord. But Kyle McCord is like the gunslinger, the super strong arm, just the crazy arm talent. I saw him side by side at a camp a couple of times with JJ McCarthy, and he just looks different. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's just more put together. But they were always pretty close, like neck and neck in terms of ratings. So Ohio State got their guy, Michigan got their guy. Neither of them may see the field this year, so that's kind of an interesting development in itself. But it sounds like Stroud and Jack Miller and McCord are all going to have a shot, with most people thinking Stroud will be the guy. And again, whoever it is, I trust Ryan Day and everything that they do, that they're going to pick the right guy and he's going to look damn good. How could he not? He's got some of the best receivers in the country, maybe the best receiving core in the country. A fantastic offensive line, a defense to keep the score low and get him the ball back. I mean, that all helps. You can't discredit that stuff. That all helps a quarterback. But I just, if I was an Ohio State fan, I wouldn't be worried about it. They'll find a guy and he'll be good. That's what happens every year. Like you said, they just reload, plug and play. 12 wins, playoff, Big Ten. Let's run it back.
Repeat.
Yeah. So anyway, last but not least, just the overall futures on the odds for winning the Big Ten. Ohio State, easy favorite, -200, so you don't even get your return on your money on that one.
Right.
Put up $10. I think you would win 8. Is that right? I'm still not 100% on those numbers. Something like that. Anyway, that's not the important part. The next tier: Iowa, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, all in second place with +900 odds. So all those 4 teams, even though we've talked about, where the spreads are, like, Michigan, a pretty big underdog against Wisconsin, decent underdog against Penn State, underdog against Washington, underdog against Ohio State, but yet right there in the mix for the odds to win the conference. Like, I think the ESPN numbers that they put on it was like 2%. Like, Michigan has a 2% chance to win the Big Ten.
Sounds about
based
right.
on their power index and the FPI and all those formulas that they use. So I don't know. I think Ohio State's, they're going to be the favorite. They will be for a long time, and I don't think anybody's betting against them at this point. So I don't know. Is there anything, not the Ohio State angle, but surprised to see that Michigan is the same odds to win as Iowa, Penn State, or Wisconsin, or is it because it doesn't freaking matter? I mean,
I just think that's where it's at. I mean, everybody knows who it's going to be. You've got it's just going to be Ohio State. It feels like Groundhog's Day, where you enter every season with excitement and hope, and that's kind of we're just over 100 days out, and you spoke to it earlier that you're starting to get that little bit of a tingly feeling, and now knowing that we're going to be back in the stadium, that's increased even more. So you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this moment in time where Michigan is still undefeated and we've got all the promise in the world ahead of us. And we'll let November sort of take care of itself because the off seasons are pretty painful.
Yeah, they have been. They have been. I'm actually gonna look this up because like I said, I put money up here and there, and should probably know this, but I don't. If that thing would get out of the way, what that would mean in terms of the amount of money and how much you would win. So if you put $10 on Ohio State, okay, so the minus 200 is essentially like a halfer. So if you put $10 on Ohio State to win the Big Ten, your return would be 5. So obviously that's not how you generally want to bet, but that's a pretty safe bet. Michigan, on the other hand, if you put $10 on Michigan to win the Big Ten and they do, you'll cash a $90 ticket.
Ooh.
So that's the plus 900. So there you go. I won't be making that bet, but that's I wouldn't be making a bet with any of those teams: Iowa, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin. You get into the season and some injuries happen or some things go sideways a little bit. You never know, but that's why Ohio State is the favorite. That's why you got to put money up to, take a half of a payout. Put up 10 to win 5. I'm not doing any of that, even though it's probably pretty smart money. Anyway, at this point, we are done. I'm going to hang it up for tonight. I'm at my parents' house. If anybody wants to know where my mom got this king size sheet, you can hit my DMs. I'll let you know. And appreciate my mom and my wife for hanging this up while I was sitting here telling them, like, you got to go up over there and pull it tight right there. I can't have all these wrinkles. But no, like I said, my mom's birthday tomorrow. Hanging out here with my kid. We went and did a little shopping today. Got my mom a little gift, so it's been good. What you got coming up this weekend, Chris?
Same thing I'm always doing, man. Home renovation.
House stuff, yeah.
Home renovation. It's been a total shit show. We moved the new refrigerator in yesterday, dented the hell out of it. So, I had to cut part of the banister because it wasn't fitting the right way, and it was again. That's for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be knee deep in home renovations, so pray for me.
There you go. 2 sick dads out.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening, everybody.